So today I am doing another test with the Runcam Wifi Link 2. After the last test I upgraded my BEC in the ground station module to a much better one. I'm using the Martech BEC Pro now because I have the suspicion that the BEC in my last flight was already defect and my results were altered by this. So this is my first flight with this new BEC module on the ground station, where I hope to achieve much better results. But it quickly showed or turned out that the range was in fact not better than with the previous BEC module. And here I'm already in fact experiencing glitches at closer distances than before, so it seems like I made it worse. So here, when going around these trees, the glitches already start to get immense, and I wanted to go to the second collection of trees, but before I reached it I already had glitches going away from me. That's why I decided to stay very high, and you see that the trees, they aren't blocking my line of sight at the moment even, and the image becomes unflyable here. So I concluded from that I had to try something else, and that more testing with this ground station setup on this day wouldn't make any sense. Luckily I also had my phone, a Galaxy S25 Ultra, with me, and I installed the Pixelpilot app on it and just plugged my normal PC Wi-Fi adapter. That's some TP-Link AC 1300 I think device, and then I taped it to my tripod so that it pointed in the direction where I was flying. I didn't expect better results, but as you will see, I was surprised. Okay, I just want to explain the location where I was flying real quick. So that's where I was sitting, and I tried to fly the same path with all of the systems I tested, so Wifi Link V1, Wifi Link V2 and DJI O3 and O4 Lite. And that flight path being, I start at my location, fly towards the hunter stand, circle it, then go to the tree collection number 1, circle it 1 or 2 times, trying to stay low so that I'm behind the tree line, going to tree collection number 2, circling it 1 or 2 times, and then flying back to the hunter stand, and then going between these 2 lines of trees where the quad isn't in line of sight anymore until the signal breaks up, punching out, going over these trees and coming back towards my location. And now we can also measure real quick the distances. So the furthest distance to the tree collection number 2 is about 600 meters. With the Pixelpilot setup, I then proceeded to do my tests. First I tested the Runcam Wifi Link V2 built into my FPV quad. Then I switched to the Wifi Link V1 stacked on top of the quad as seen here, and I cut the power lead to the V2 so that they don't interfere with each other. And after that I went on to the DJI systems with my goggles too. First the DJI O3 unfortunately the recording on this one stopped during flight, and then also the DJI O4 Lite using my goggles 2 again, both of them on max output power. So we will start with the Wifi Link V2. Here you just saw the settings in the configuration on the SD card. I'm running 4 Mbits on 60 FPS. And here's the start of the route. Last time with my ground station, this was the point where I saw the first glitches. And now with the Pixelpilot setup, I didn't have any glitches around the hunter stand. Now I'm going for the first tree agglomeration. Again here, no glitches, but I was pretty high up in this round. And because I felt so confident, I also went to the second tree collection. Now here we can see the first glitches at 600 meters away behind some treetops. I think that's pretty respectable. Here I'm lower, we can see more glitch, but I could maneuver the quadcopter out of there. Here I'm again pretty low, some glitches, but nothing too spectacular. And the last part of the test route, going between those two tree lines, is the most interesting one, because here you tend to have the most problems, and here we see the signal almost immediately drops, but that's also the case with analog or DJI. This path right here is very difficult, and here I'm punching out to get signal again, and then it's immediately there again, and I fly back to the starting point. Overall, in terms of latency with my phone, it was flyable, not too good, but it was okay, better than with my ground station setup with the Radxa and my Fatshark HDO. Here's the Wifi Link V2 with a test with 8 megabit. As you could see on the configuration, I changed the output power to 45 TX override here, and the MTS index to 3. And I'm also running 120 frames per second. And when freestyling here for a little bit, I really noticed the shorter latency. And that was really fun to freestyle already. So 720p, 120 FPS is really good to fly for freestyle. Again here at the hunter stand, no glitches, even with 8 Mbit and lower TX power. And now I expect to see more glitches, because these higher bit rates and lower TX powers tend to have less range and penetration. That's why you can use adaptive link to then switch to lower bit rates and higher TX power values to benefit from this when you are far away, and when you are coming closer to yourself again, then you can switch to higher bit rates again, just like it's with DJI. Yeah, here we can see a noticeable degradation of signal quality behind these treetops at 8 Mbit. But that's exactly what I was expecting when switching to these higher bit rates, and it's not really a problem, because with adaptive link you could switch to 4 Mbits or even lower. I don't know the exact value that's possible for the Wifi Link V2, but I will definitely try that out in a later video. And here it doesn't even make too much of a difference, because the trees I mean, there are like 20 meters of trees after each other, and they almost immediately block the signal. Yeah, so that's it for the Wifi Link V2 test at 8 Mbits. As I said, at 120 FPS, that's already really fun to fly and very comparable in terms of latency to the DJI system with my Pixelpilot setup with the S25 Ultra, which should be pretty fast in decoding. And here I made a comparison to the Wifi Link V1 at 4 Mbit 50 FPS, also on 55 TX power like in the first test of the Runcam Wifi Link V1. Only difference here, I have these STBC, LDPC, I think that's how they call it, parameters. They are set to 1 by default on the Wifi Link V1. Or I don't remember changing them, but that's the difference in the setup between the V1 and the V2 here. Here there are also no glitches on the Hunter stand. Just have no OSD because it isn't hooked up to the flight controller. After the first tree collection, also no glitch, but it's depending a bit on the height where you fly behind it, if you get glitches at this distance or not. As you can see in the free line of sight, there's absolutely no problems with the V1 and V2 Wifi Link at this distance. Now I'm going behind the second tree collection, and also with the V1 we can see some minor glitching here happening. So it seems to be about the same as the Wifi Link V2. I'm going back. I have read some messages stating that the Wifi Link V2 range might be worse, and I also initially thought that after my first test, but now when comparing these two one to one, I have to say that the difference seems marginal, maybe even non-existent. I'm going here for a second round behind the trees. It's always about the same spot where the signal breaks up. And now we will come to the DJI systems as a comparison, flying the same flight path. And I can say that they are also struggling at some points on this flight path. The DJI O3 unfortunately stopped recording 2 seconds after taking off. That's also part of the reality with the DJI systems. That happens sometimes because of SD card problems, but luckily I still have the recordings with the DJI O4 Lite on a toothpick. And from my experience, the O3 and the O4 Lite are very comparable in terms of range and penetration. I already did some testing with them beforehand, and they seem to be about the same. The O4 Pro would be better than the O4 Lite, but O4 Lite and O3 seem to be more or less the same. So when going behind the first tree collection, we are only seeing very minor decreases in the bitrate, but with the OpenIPC Runcam systems, there were also most of the time no glitches here. Now it gets interesting going behind the second tree collection, and you can see the DJI O4 Lite also really struggles there. I maybe was a little bit lower, like 2 or 3 meters than with the other systems, but it's the same position where also the OpenIPC systems had the first real glitches at 4 Mbit bitrate. And now for the second interesting part, going between these tree lines, I try to keep the same altitude like with the Runcam systems, and you can see here the O4 Lite performs a lot better. I will go for a second round here, where we saw with the Runcam systems I had to punch out almost immediately. The DJI O4 Lite is able to hold a bitrate of like 5 Mbps for longer. I think I would have even been able to fly longer through here. But maybe with adaptive link and switching to even lower bit rates, I have the hope that the Runcam Wifi Link V2 or V1 can even improve their performance at this location. So I will try that out in another video sometime soon. Now for reference, I put the O4 Lite and Wifi Link 2 recording directly next to each other. At the Hunter stand, both have absolutely no problems and no glitches. That's just the same footage that I already put in early in the video, but now next to each other. Going around tree collection number 1. With the O4 Lite, I have to say I was lower here definitely. But no glitches with both systems. Now going for tree collection number 2. And here again I was significantly lower with the O4 Lite copter. And the O4 Lite really struggles here. At the second round with the Wifi Link 2 I was a bit lower. I put that next to each other here and experienced slightly more glitches, but yeah, the O4 Lite was also really struggling here. Now a low pass with the Wifi Link 2 being behind tree collection 1. And going for the final path line between the trees. And here the most significant difference between O4 Lite and Wifi Link V2 shows. With the O4 Lite I could fly through all of this, whereas with the Wifi Link V2 the signal almost immediately drops, but still respectable for such a new product. Maybe you saw my last video where I tested the Runcam Wifi Link V2 initially, and I wasn't 100% satisfied with the results, but I believed that the system could perform better and that there was some issue on side of my ground station. So that turned out to be true now. So I want to give an updated review of the Wifi Link V2. So there seems to be a problem within my Rutger Zero ground station setup, because even the Pixelpilot setup I showed you with a single Wi-Fi USB adapter performed significantly better than my ground station with 4 antennas and patch antennas. With this Pixelpilot ground station, I have to say that I was very surprised of the performance of the Runcam Wifi Link systems, the V1 and V2. And with a properly working 4 antenna ground station setup, I think we will even see more improvements. That was like the worst case ground station setup nearly, and I hope to see a lot more improvements when I finally have a good ground station. In direct comparison, the Wifi Link V2 and the V1 seem to perform about the same in terms of range and penetration. I didn't really do a long range test here, but from my impression there's not really any difference. The DJI systems are of course a bit better. Unfortunately for my test video here, the DJI O3 recording failed on me, but the O4 Lite system had nearly an image loss, at the same point where I was seeing heavy glitches with the Runcam Wifi Link V2 at the tree collection point 2. So I think the difference is not too large. When going beneath these two tree lines, you could see that the O4 Lite still performed a lot better, but I think there are still some things I can improve on my setup. First of all, setting up adaptive link. I didn't do that for now because I wanted to have comparable results to my last test and not change too much from the first to the second test. And the next big step for me would be getting a proper ground station setup. Unfortunately, the Runcam VRX station is not yet available. I would love to get that very soon, because I think with a proper 4-antenna ground station setup and good adaptive link settings, I can see the Wifi Link V2 getting very close to the performance of the O4 Lite or DJI O3 system.